I'm originally from Illinois. Spent most of my life in central Illinois, and as I got better with the guitar, I got involved in bar bands and things like that, and in doing so that brought on, I don't know, rock star syndrome, I suppose you'd say, because we tried to simulate the rock star lifestyle by, you know, the drugs and alcohol and the things that at the time we thought were fun. And as that proceeded, I got more and more involved in the drugs and alcohol and less focused on the more important things in life. And most of my life I've always pretty much known there was a God. I just didn't fully understand what that meant. I spent most of my life thinking that He was there to be my servant, you know, I should be able to ask Him for things and He should just do it. So as I got further and further into my addiction, I got more and more disgusted with God for letting me go through this. I had spent so much of my time partying, I'd gotten to the point to where I was staying up 3, 4, 5 days at a time. And one particular time I had been up for about 5 days. I went home about 2:33 in the morning to a house with no power, no running water, because I had no money for bills. I had to support my habit. And I remember lighting some candles before I kicked back on the floor. And about 3 hours later, I awoke to this loud pop. It turned out it was the cigarette lighter I'd had on the table with the candles. And when that happened, I looked across the room and I noticed my coffee table and part of my living room was engulfed in flames. So I got out of the house, and from that point on, I even cursed God some more and questioned Him. Why did He let me wake up? Why? I didn't want to be awake. I would have rather just that been the end of it at the time. But that also put something else in my mind, just a thought of, He did make me wake up though, and there has to be a reason for that. Now, that brewed in my mind for a few years after that. I came to Minnesota kind of as a fresh start. So I'm thinking, you know, great, whole new state, I'll be out of the drugs and alcohol, and when I get to Minnesota, and turns out Minnesota's got drugs and alcohol too. And I didn't have to look to find them, they kind of found me right away. And I finally had gotten so disgusted with myself. One night I just hit my knees and I just begged God, take this away, just make it stop. Do whatever it takes to help this get better. And within 2 days, I'd gotten a phone call that I had no idea was even going to come. I mean, it had been a couple months since I'd applied for a job with a guy, and it turns out his brother-in-law needs help. He calls me out of the blue on a Sunday night, asked me if I'm still looking for work. So yeah, I accepted. And after a couple of days of working with the guy, I find out that he's a Christ follower. So that was kind of my first in with God. And once we got to Mora, I really didn't know anybody, and I didn't know if I wanted to go looking for churches, so I just called the pastor at the E-Free Church and asked if he had any recommendations. He referred me to Emmanuel Baptist, and when I showed up to Emmanuel Baptist for the first time, I noticed that our current landlord was playing bass guitar on the worship team, which had kind of surprised me. And so after the service, I went and had talked to him, you know, and I'm just kind of telling him, you know, I used to play guitar, haven't had one for a few years, you know, and give him a quick rundown of the house fire and how I'd lost stuff and that. And at the time, I was behind on my rent with him, and that following Monday, I'm home from work, and the landlord comes knocking on the door, and I'm thinking, oh great, he's going to come wanting his money. And I answer the door, and he says to me, he says, "Oh, good, you're home. I'll be right back." And he runs out to his car, and he comes back to the door with a guitar and an amplifier. I just, I just knew right away that that was all God all the way. There was just no other explanation. And after he gave me the guitar and the amplifier, the next day he calls me and he's telling me, "I'm going to bring you some music by. I want you to listen to it, and I'll bring some sheet music for it too. I want you to kind of mess around with it, and if you'd like to come and practice with us, we have practice at Emmanuel every Saturday mornings at 8 o'clock. Well, you know, I kind of hem-hawed around about that. I didn't know if I really wanted to be part of the church band or anything like that. But he was a very forceful guy. He convinced me that's what I should do, and I'm very thankful that he did.
What does this worship music at church mean to you?
Oh, it means a lot. For one, it's a way of me expressing my love for God. I can't explain how great it feels to be able to play and to give back to the one that's blessed me with all the talent. And at the same time, it's also great to be able to use that talent to pour out His love to others. And I'm just thankful to be able to do it, and I just hope with every time I play that if it just touches one heart in the audience in a way that helps them feel closer to God, that it's just another blessing He's bestowed on me. There are so many areas that I can look back on and just seeing God was right there next to me. When I asked the right questions and truly wanted what I was asking for, He delivered every time.